This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
Legendary game show host Peter Marshall passed away on August the 15th at the age of 98. Of course, he's known for his 16 years as the host of the game show Hollywood Squares, but he was much more than just a game show host. He was a great singer, something that he did professionally from childhood. He helmed many a musical stage production as the star, both in touring companies and on Broadway. I had the chance to spend an hour talking to him back in 2002. At the time, Peter was promoting his book called Backstage with the Original Hollywood Square. Here's just part of that conversation now.
Now, I was talking to some friends of mine who we all grew up watching Hollywood Squares, and the things that we enjoyed the most, and I think it's where you were underrated, and that is, especially now watching various game shows, including new versions and newer versions of the show that you hosted. We all came to the agreement that you have something besides the fact that you sing in common with Dean Martin, and that is you had to be one heck of a straight man.
Well, you know, for years I was a straight man in a comedy act called Noonan and Marshall, Tommy Noonan and Pete Marshall. We used to play Montreal all the time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The hotel there, the King something, it's been so many years ago. And then I also played another place that was upstairs, and I cannot recall the name of that. But I used to play, we would tour, the whole country. We were together for a long time, Tommy Noonan and Pete Marshall. So I had been straight, I am straight, but I had been doing straight for a long, long time. So when they asked me to do Squares, it was pretty simple for me to do. It was a lot of fun, plus the fact that I knew most of the people on the panel. Wally Cox I'd gone to school with, Charlie Weaver, Cliff Arquette, I'd known since I was 18. Rosemary, we kind of grew up together. George Gobel, we had been in almost vaudeville together. So it was kind of a familial kind of thing when I started Squares. So I certainly wasn't intimidated by anybody, and they knew my background, and I think they respected me, and we just had a fun time.
Now, you were the original host of the Hollywood Squares, but you didn't shoot the pilot.
No, I didn't. It's all in the book, actually. The pilot was done at CBS a year before I even knew about it. I was on Broadway, actually, starring with Julie Harris in a show called Skyscraper. And so had that show sold, I would never have done the Hollywood Squares. But Burt Parks was the original guy. I never did a pilot. They did a pilot with Burt Parks, then with another fellow by the name of Sandy Barron. And they just auditioned me, and I didn't particularly want to do the show. I wanted to go back to New York and do another Broadway show. And so they were going to offer the show to somebody I didn't like. And this is in the book, too. And He was a very big star, but he was not a very nice person in my eyes. And so they said, if you don't do it, so-and-so is going to do it. I said, you got to be kidding. I said, I'll do it. I thought it was 13 weeks. So by my being so mean and everything, and to cheat somebody out of a show, I worked for the next 16 years.
The book you were referring to is Backstage with the Original Hollywood Square.
Right.
Written by you and Adrian Armstrong.
Right. Adrian, her husband was one of the original producers, and he passed away a couple of years ago. But Adrian was on the show as a production assistant right from the beginning. So she knew as much about the show as I, and she's a fine writer. She had been writing, about 5 different series. And so she was the person really to go to. And so I said, hey, Adrian, would you like to do this thing with me? And she said, absolutely. And we've had great success with it. Well, I think we sold out the first edition in about 3.5 weeks. And
we should mention, too, that the book is also available from your website, which is www.boysinger.com.
If you want an autographed copy, that's how you can get it. But you can buy it on Amazon.com, much cheaper than in the stores. And the great thing about the book, there's a CD in the book, and it's all the old outtakes from over the years. There's everybody you ever heard of, from Mel Brooks to Freddie Prinze to, everybody, Goebel and Paul Lynde. And it's a CD. I think the CD's worth the price, really. And I got the rights to it. It's called Singers from the Hollywood Squares. And I included that in the book. And people play it all the time. I have a place in the desert here, and when I drove down, I listened to it the other day, and I must say I did laugh a lot.
There was also, correct me if I'm mistaken, a children's version of the Hollywood Squares?
Right. It was called Storybook Squares on Saturday mornings. that was really a lot of fun. But it didn't work. I'll tell you why. It should have been an hour show. By the time I introduced all the stars in their outfits, Paul Lynde as Paul Bunyan and all these different people dressed up, we had about 8 minutes of content for children. So it should have been a 45-minute show or an hour show. But it was certainly a lot of fun to do, and I think the kids got a big kick out of it.
Now, you said you were not intimidated because you knew most of the people who were on the show, but
right.
It was almost like being, how would I describe this? Like the ringmaster in a way of a 9-ring circus or a 9-square circus, and sometimes.
Well, I guess so. It was really an easy job. I just sat there and said, "Hello, stars," and welcome to the show, and I would introduce the people, I'd read the questions, and I'd laugh. That was just about it. It was the easiest job I ever had in show business. And I loved it. It was just really a lot of fun. We took trips together. I talk about all the trips we took together and what really went on backstage and what this guy was like, what that starlet was like, or, what Rose Marie is really like. We had, people like, what do you think about Helen Hayes and Gloria Swanson and Ginger Rogers? And, all these people were on the show. And I talk about all that.
How long did it take you to do that? What was the schedule like? I know most game shows usually tape on the weekends. Is that correct?
I would tape sometimes, yes, mostly on the weekends. But when people were shooting series, they're not working on the weekends, so we can get a lot of series people. I would go in around 3 o'clock, go to makeup, look to see who's on the show. I'd read the questions. I'd go on the air, start taping around, say, 4:30. It took me about 4.5 hours to do the week. I do the whole week. And no rehearsal, no nothing. Just, I do the half-hour show. I'd go change, get into another jacket. Didn't even have to change my pants. I never stood up. So sometimes I would do it in shorts, actually. And some of the outfits were just god-awful because they used to make me wear these terrible tuxedos because they were selling them and getting deals. And I was the poor guy that had to wear these things. I look at the show now and I do laugh a lot. First of all, I say, who is that young kid? And secondly, I said, and why is he wearing that outfit?
I guess, only working weekends on the show gave you all the time in the world to do the other things that you enjoy doing, like singing.
Oh, absolutely. I would work Vegas at least 26 weeks a year. And I had to deal with the Sahara for 10 years, and I was at deal with what they call SUMA, which was the Desert Inn, the Sands, the New Frontier, and and not only that, we would get ahead, and for about 8 or 10 weeks, then I would go out and do like the Music Man or Guys and Dolls or something like that in summer stock. Oh, it was an ideal job.
There have been 2 incarnations of the show since you hosted it. The one that John Davidson did,
right,
and the one that's being aired now with Tom Bergeron,
right.
Was there a reason why you didn't continue hosting?
I have no idea why they didn't ask me, to be frank with you. I think they were looking for younger people, and they wanted to go another way. The thing with John, it was not very well produced. I thought John was very good, by the way. Mm-hmm. He happens to be a very close friend, and he was very upset when he got the job, and he called me, and I said, "Are you crazy, John?" He was a regular on the show, as you know.
Right.
And I said, "You do that show. You'll be terrific. And anything I can do to help, please just let me know." He said, "Well, I've been looking at old shows, and so, do you mind if I imitate you for a while?" I said, "Of course not." But I said, "That's silly. You've got your own style, and you'll be terrific." I don't know Tom Bergeron. Actually, I'm taping the show. They've been after me for about 4 years to do the show, and I've been saying no. And now with the book coming out, being out, and they have a new producer.
Henry Winkler.
Fonzie is producing the show. Henry Winkler.
Yeah.
And I know Henry, and he said, "Pete, would you do the show?" And I said, "Gee, Henry, I don't think I'd like to do the show." He said, "You'll be in the center square for a week, and you can plug the book." I said, "It would be fun if you let me host it for a week and put Tom Bergeron in the center square." And they wouldn't buy that.
Right.
But anyway, they've changed the show. I saw it the other night. It's a little different, I guess. Have a different ending. But the show's never worked as well as it did originally, and I don't know why. It has not been produced too well. It's not Tom Bergeron's fault. I think he's fine. I can't really put my finger on it. I don't think it's cast very well. And, you know something? I don't know why it doesn't work. I wish I did.
Yeah. Well, that was going to be my next question about being on the show. Had you ever actually played the show in the past?
No, never have. No, so it'll be fun.
I'm looking forward to that.
Well, good.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
I was often wanted to know, were some of the people just really nervous to be on the show or had no idea how to play tic-tac-toe?
Absolutely right. They would be fine in the interview, but once they got on the show and saw all the cameras and all the people, they would freeze up. I would give them a paper clip and during commercial. I said, now listen, just calm down. Listen carefully to the question and look at the board. Okie doke? And I tried to help them that way. But sometimes, you know, they just couldn't do it. I can remember a girl from San Diego, the dumbest person I think I ever met, won more money on our show because every obviously correct answer she would disagree with, and she would be right. I mean, I started to laugh. I mean, everything she did was right, and she had no idea what the heck she was doing. So it was that kind of a show. This, you know, we're not talking about Jeopardy here or College Bowl. This was do you agree or disagree? You know, it's that simple a show.
Now, as fun as it was to watch the television show on TV, I was talking to a friend of mine just a little while ago, the other day, when I mentioned I was having you on, who had actually had an opportunity to see the show in the audience.
I'll bet you had fun.
It was a little difficult, though. I mean, you had a big set, didn't you?
Huge.
The stars, basically, if you were, depending where you're sitting, they could be looking like ants.
No, it wasn't that big, but it was a big set. And plus the fact they had monitors all over where the audience were. And it was a hot ticket. You know, the Tonight Show in Hollywood Squares was a hot ticket. It was hard to get in. And that's what you call the hot ticket. But we would seat about 500 people. And we would do 3 shows with the same audience. Then we would break for dinner and bring in another bunch of people. But we used to have a lot of fun because during the breaks we would go out and entertain the people. You know, they would do stand-up comedy. We gave away things. It was the most fun I think I've ever had in show business.
It must have been just a constant laugh fest when putting that show together each and every week.
Well, I would never be in the office. I never knew the jokes. I never knew the questions. I would get to the studio, read the questions, and I went on fresh as a daisy. And I don't know who was briefed, who wasn't. I just did it because I didn't want it. That's why it looked so ad-lib, because it was a very free kind of thing. People were given jokes and things like that, but I never knew who, I never knew the joke, and they never knew the straight line. And that was the way the whole thing worked.
Were they supplied the answers?
No, they were not given answers. They were given jokes or bluffs, but never answers.
Okay.
We could have given them answers because you have to agree or disagree, but that would have taken the fun out of it. No. We would not give them answers. That would have been stupid.
Now, when the show was on the air, going back to the 60s and the 70s, it certainly was a far more innocent time. Those were some very risque answers that were given, particularly by Paul Lynde.
Yes, we did a lot of politically incorrect things, actually. When you reflect on it, I go, whoa, how did we get by with that? But it was just in the writing and the way it was done. We had what we call compliance and practices, and they just didn't understand the jokes, I guess. I don't know. But we got away with murder. It was amazing when I think of some of the stuff.
Now, I want to get to your musical career because I'm sure even though you spent so many years, as you said, spending most of your time probably working in places like Vegas and singing.
How about Montreal?
And about Montreal, places like Montreal as well. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there because they watch television and they don't get a chance to get out too much, probably aren't even aware of the fact that you are or were boy singer.
Well, and that's what I really do. That's exactly, I don't consider myself a host. I consider myself a musical comedy performer. I did the National Company of Lacage. I was in Toronto for, I think, 16 weeks. I was in Montreal. Mm-hmm. If anybody in Montreal saw Lacage au Fol, the National Company, that was me. And I toured that for 2 years and did it in New York a year. And I've appeared in London many times. I did Bye Bye Birdie over there with Cheetah Rivera. and with a great English comic by the name of Frankie Howard. I played the captain in HMS Pinafore with the London Symphony. And I've done a lot of Broadway, and I've done a lot of, touring. So I started out as a band singer. That's what I did. I sang with bands when I was 15. I've been in the business, for 62 years. So I've been around a long time.
That was just a portion of a much longer conversation with the legendary game show host Peter Marshall. He passed away on August the 15th at the age of 98. Patreon subscribers, you can hear the full interview as a Patreon reward extra, where Peter talks about his singing career, and you'll hear some of his music. Plus, he talks about his sister, actress Joanne Drew, his Major League Baseball player's son, his work on stage and in film, and much more. It's more than twice as long as what you've just heard. Just go to our Patreon page, and if you're not already a member, become one of the select patrons of the show. Visit patreon.com/The Stuph File Program.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuff is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.